reading of the poem, vastly simplified and shortened. Only 7 birds and a narrator, and that's what you're going to hear in place of a sermon today. So, tremendous gratitude to Ryn Overturf and Aaron Kenworthy, Brian Stone, Matt Davis, James Crapes, Mary Sullivan, and Nellie Stagg for agreeing to be readers on very short notice. That said, and prepped for later on, our call to worship this morning was written by Courtney Walsh. Dear human, you got it all wrong. You didn't come here to master unconditional love. That's where you came from, and that's where you will return. You came here to learn personal love, universal love, messy love, sweaty love, crazy love, broken love, whole love, infused with divinity, lived through the grace of stumbling, demonstrated through the beauty of messing up. Often, you didn't come here to be perfect. You already are. You came here to be gorgeously human, flawed and fabulous, and then to rise again into remembering. But unconditional love, stop telling that story. Love and truth doesn't need any adjectives. It doesn't require modifiers. It doesn't require the condition of perfection. It only asks that you show up, that you do your best, that you stay present and feel fully, that you shine and fly and laugh and cry and hurt and heal, and you fall and you get back up and you play and work and live and die as you. That's enough. That is plenty. Welcome to First Unitarian Denver this fine morning.
Good morning. So, we're going to play a little bit today because there's wisdom in your bodies. Yeah? Yeah, there is. And playing is one of the ways that we can let that wisdom out. This week, there was a very big bird in the news sharing wisdom with a lot of folks. Some people received it and some didn't, but I'm inviting you to receive the wisdom that is in your body. By playing with me this morning, we're going to be birds. So if you can, for a moment, imagine in your brain Big Bird, because Big Bird is big. And then I'm going to ask you, if you're willing or able, to stand and join me and try to embody Big Bird as you rise. Big Bird has the big yellow feathers around his head. And every movement that Big Bird makes, his feathers ruffle and move, and it does not stop him from moving. All right, so we're going to put Big Bird off to the side, and we're going to choose now to embody some other birds. Are you ready? Or you can respond with an appropriate bird call. There it is. Great. All right, our first bird this morning is a chicken. All right. How about, that was good. Good chickens. All right. How about penguin? Very good. How about a hummingbird? Good. Or an owl. I saw an owl at my house this week. It was so big. All right. And now a bird we were talking about this morning before the service, a flamingo. Very nice. How about a duck? Good. How about a swan? Or a peacock? That's lovely. How about a hawk? All of this wisdom of the birds that you hold in your body, hang on to that this morning as you listen to the story that we tell. Thank you for being here and at home.
Well, I get to do my favorite part of the service, the offertory, where I ask everybody for money. But I'm going to make another request first. This week, I was looking up some emails and phone numbers in Breeze, and I had all these gray nothings by their names. And I'm like, why don't they have their picture there so we can know who they are? It's even harder these days with masks to hide us. We need a picture at least to help us. So my request is check your Breeze account If there's no picture, please put one in. And the reason we have Breeze is so that we can remain a community and contact each other. And so it's really important. So that's enough. Now, I'm also one of a very select few, we're probably less than 35, who have been in this church for between 97 years, that's a little exaggeration, and 30 years in this community. So we have not only a big connection to this church and the people within it, we also have a giant dream for what we might become, even though if we may not be there. So to reach everything that we want, I'm asking for you to kick in a little today when you go by the basket in the back, or when you're home, go to the Breeze account and give some more money. Thank you very much.
few joys and concerns of our larger community to share this morning. I want to let you know that Jane Derrick is out of rehab and back with her family. There's still considerable healing to do, but the prognosis looks good. I want to let you know Phyllis Zumwinkle had a fall last week, and she has been admitted to rehab. I have not been able to reach her directly, but I'm told that cards and calls are welcome. I'm going to keep trying to reach her by phone. I want to send a word of just gratitude to all the people who have been spending their Sunday mornings with us from their homes all across the country. And we don't know all of you, but we feel you, and we're glad you're here. This morning, I just want to give a shout out to all of those folks among us and beyond us who deal on a daily basis with conditions and illnesses that are invisible or very difficult to see. Depression, anxiety, fear, despair, chronic fatigue or chronic pain, neuropathy, Crohn's disease, all of its variants, loneliness, isolation. There are a lot of heavy burdens out there that cannot be readily seen with the casual eye. And if you are someone who carries one of those burdens, you are not broken. You are not imagining anything. You are strong and resilient in ways no one will ever fully understand. You are a warrior. Friends, for these and so many other needs, we need a prayer. Not of words, but of power and light. We need a blessing of movement and beauty. A benediction so true that our calling comes clear. A baptism in the truth. We need a cleansing, not of our sins, but of denial and fear. A holy communion with the still small voice within. A scripture of healing and of soul. We need a homily to lead us home. A sermon of sunsets and sacred music. We need a transmigration, not to some arbitrary heaven, but to a deeper understanding of our purpose. A resurrection of our deepest wisdom. Revolution like a heavenly choir, an invocation to fill the skies. We need a confession, not of our wounds and our failings, but of our hopes for transformation, the power of our love, the possibilities stirring in our hearts this moment. Amen.
Still with thee, nor
So here is a tale, the conference of the birds, an epic story of mystery and enlightenment, a story that may change your life. The change may not be drastic or immediate, but when you allow a seed to be planted, it will grow. The tale will trigger mysteries within us, trigger memories within us all. The images haunt the imagination, and over time, their wisdom trickles down into the heart. We are the birds in this story. We each have our fears and anxieties as we hold on to our version of the truth. But the truth is not static, and we each thread a path according to our own capacity. Only those trapped in their own dogma, clinging to hardened beliefs or faith, cannot make the journey toward the unfathomable divine. The characters, imagery, and places are allegories. Do not approach them literally. You will hear triumph, curiosity, hunger, fear, pride, self-pity, ecstasy, tears, and blood. The divine may make an appearance as itself, or as a character, or as an emotion, or as a feeling in your own heart. Let go of your need for sanity, logic, and other trickeries. When the ego is voided, the inner eye blinks open. The great ocean is eternal, it is patient, it waits for us all. May we all arrive at its shores as droplets of pure water. That's when we can join it, become it, and finally comprehend it. Welcome, Conference of the Birds.
I am the Hoopoe. I was guide to King Solomon and the true messenger of the valley, who had the good fortune to go to the borders of the kingdom of Sheba. Solomon found my warbling speech delightful, and being his companion has given me a crown of glory.
I am the partridge, a bird who walks graciously, content to fly over the mountains of divine knowledge. I seek not the way, nor do I knock on the door of the house of God with a hammer. My feet are fleet, and my feathers are easily ruffled.
I am the nightingale, a bird from the garden of love. My plaintive notes are caused by the wounds and pains of love. Like David, I lament sweetly from the heart, a melodious song of spiritual things, fervent in the love of God.
Peacock is my name. I was expelled from the Garden of Eden, afflicted by the seven-headed serpent, still seeking deliverance. Forever I wait for Adam to take me with him into paradise.
I am the hawk. Once upon a time I rebelled against my master, but now I am subdued, with bowed head, and I bear myself accordingly. I am fastened to the body of the world with a leather thong. The beloved is far from me.
I am duck. Though I fly vast distances in search of food and fair, wet weather, I am a bird that floats over the surface of things. I am a thirsty bird, drawn to water above all things. What use have I for God?
I am the sparrow, singer of sweet songs, small of stature, strong of wing. Not a solo bird. I live in flocks and bunches of jealous noisemakers. See us squabble and pluck, feasting on leftover corn and seeds from the harvest.
unknown assembled together. They said, "No country in the world is without a king. How comes it then that the kingdom of the birds is without a ruler? This state of things cannot last. We must make effort together and search for one, for no country can have good administration and a good organization without a king." So they began to consider how to find the right sovereign. The hoopoe, excited and full of hope, came forward and placed himself in the middle of the assembled birds. On his breast was the ornament which symbolized that he had entered the way of spiritual knowledge. The crest on his head was the crown of truth, for he had knowledge of both good and evil.
"Dear birds," I began, "I am one who is engaged in divine warfare, and I am the messenger of the world invisible. I have knowledge of God and of the secrets of creation. When one carries on his beak, as I do, the name of God, it follows that one must have knowledge of many hidden things. I know well my king, but alone I cannot set out to find him. Abandon your timidity, your self-conceit, your unbelief, for he who makes light of his own life is delivered from himself. Be generous in your life. Set your feet upon the earth and step out joyfully for the court of the king. We have a true king. He lives beyond the mountains. His name is Simurg. He is close to us, but we are far from him. He does not manifest himself completely, even in the place of his dwelling, and this no knowledge or intelligence can attain. Even the purest soul cannot describe him. Neither can reason comprehend. These two eyes are blind. The wise cannot discover this perfection, nor can the man of understanding perceive his beauty."
When the hoopoe had finished, the birds began excitedly to discuss the glory of this king. Seized with longing to have him for their own sovereign, they were impatient to be off. They resolved to go together. Each became a friend to the other and an enemy to himself. But when they began to realize how long and painful their journey was to be, they hesitated. And in spite of their apparent goodwill, began to excuse themselves, each according to his type. The amorous nightingale first came forward, almost beside himself with passion.
The secrets of love are known to me. All night I repeat my songs of love. I create a tumult among the roses as well as in the hearts of lovers. So deep in love am I with the rose that I do not even think of my own existence, but only of the rose and the coral of her petals. The journey to the Simurg is beyond my strength. The love of the rose is enough for the nightingale.
Oh, nightingale, you who would stay behind, dazzled by the exterior form of things, cease to delight in an attachment so deluding. Although the rose is fair, her beauty is soon gone. Forsake the rose and blush for yourself, for she laughs at you each new spring, and then she smiles no more.
Next came the golden peacock with feathers of 100 colors. He displayed himself, turning this way and that like a bride.
My lot is not to be envied. I was friendly with the serpent in the earthly paradise, and for this was ignominiously driven out. I do not expect to reach the king you speak of. It will suffice me to reach the gate. How can you expect me to strive to reach the Simurgh, since I have lived in the earthly paradise? Nothing else has any meaning for me.
You are straying from the true way. The palace of this king is far better than your paradise. You cannot do better than to strive to reach it. It is the habitation of the soul. It is eternity. It is the object of our real desires, the dwelling of the heart, the seat of truth. The Most High is a vast ocean. The paradise of earthly bliss is only a little drop.
Timidly, the duck came out of the water and went up to the assembly, dressed in her finest robe.
What bird can live and move in the water as I do? In this I have a marvelous power. Nothing is more profitable to me than water, for in it I find my food and have my dwelling. How shall I be able to cross the valleys and fly to the Simurgh? How can one such as I, contented with the surface of the water, have any longing to see the Simurgh?
Oh, you whose delight is in the water, which occupies your whole life. Indolently you drowse there, but a wave comes and you are swept away. Water is good only for those who have a fair countenance and a clean face. If you are such, it is well. But how long will you stay clean and pure as the water?
The partridge next approached, graceful yet self-satisfied.
I wander among ruins, for I love precious stones. They have lighted a fire in my heart. But often I find myself between stones and fire, inactive and perplexed. Oh, my friends, see how I live. Is it possible to awaken one who sleeps on stones and swallows gravel? How can I expect to go bravely into the presence of the mighty Simurgh, my hand on my head, my feet in the mud?
Oh, you who have colors of all the stones, you have a limp, give lame excuses, and your search demeans you. What are jewels but colored stones? Yet the love of them hardens your heart. Seek the true jewel of sound quality and no longer be content with a stone.
Next came the hawk, with head erect and the bearing of a soldier.
I delight in the company of kings, and I pay no regard to other creatures. I cover my eyes with a hood so that I may put my feet on the king's hand. I am perfectly trained so that when I am taken before a king, I can perform my duties exactly as expected. Why should I rush heedlessly to the Simurgh? I do not feel called to take part in this journey.
Oh, you who are attached to the outward form of things and have no care for essential values. The Simurgh is a being whose royalty becomes him because he is unique in power. Though a worldly king may often be just, he can also be guilty of injustice. The nearer one is to him, the more delicate is one's position. Since a king is compared to a fire, keep away.
And then came the sparrow, of feeble body and tender heart, trembling like a flame from head to foot.
I am dumbfounded and crestfallen. I don't know how to exist, and I am frail as a hare. I have no one to help me, and I have not the strength of an ant. I have neither down nor feathers, nothing. How can a weakling like me make her way to the Simurgh? I do not wish to begin such a toilsome journey for something I can never reach.
O you, who in your despondency are sometimes sad, sometimes gay, I am not deceived by these artful pleas. You are a little hypocrite. Even in your humility, you show 100 signs of vanity and pride. Not another word. Sew up your lips and put your foot forward. If you burn, you will burn with the others.
And then all the birds, one after another, began to make their foolish excuses. If I do not repeat them all, pardon me, dear reader, for it would take too long. But how can such birds hope to attain the presence? How can such birds take to the wings of the Spirit? When the birds were through with their excuses, and the hoopoe had responded to each, then the birds began to ask about the journey itself. How long would it take? What would they see? What hardships would they endure? Fear and trepidation moved through their feathers and wings. The hoopoe then explained.
To reach the Simurgh, we must journey through 7 valleys. The valley of the quest, of love, of understanding, of independence and detachment, of pure unity, of astonishment, and of poverty and nothingness. When you enter the first valley, the valley of the quest, 100 difficulties will assail you. You will undergo 100 trials. You will have to spend several years there. You will have to make great efforts and to change your state. You will have to give up all that has seemed precious to you and regard as nothing all that you possess. Birds, tell what you know of the other valleys.
I have heard the next valley is the valley of love. In this valley, love is represented by fire and reason by smoke. Reason cannot live with the folly of love. Love has nothing to do with reason. He who undertakes this journey should have 1,000 hearts, so that he can sacrifice one at each moment.
After the valley of love comes the valley of understanding, which has neither beginning nor end. Understanding is enduring, but knowledge is temporary. The spiritual way reveals itself only in the degree to which the traveler has overcome all faults and weaknesses, and each will appear nearer to his aim according to his effort.
Then comes the valley of independence and detachment. The lessons here are deep. In order that Adam might receive the celestial light, hosts of green-clad angels were consumed by sorrow. So that Noah might become a carpenter of God and build the ark, thousands of creatures perished in the waters. Thousands of the firstborn died so that Moses might see God. Thousands of hearts and souls were pillaged so that Muhammad might ascend for one night to heaven. Good and evil, progress and defeat, dance entwined.
The next valley to cross is the valley of unity. Although you seem to see many beings, in reality there is only one, which is not different from that which appears as many. The truth which we seek is unity and numbering, beyond, before, and after. To know both as and makes the two eternities vanish.
After the valley of unity comes the valley of astonishment, where one is prey to sadness and dejection. There, sighs are like swords, and each breath a bitter sigh. There is sorrow and lamentation, and a burning eagerness. It is at once day and night. Here a bird can only reply with certainty, I know nothing. I understand nothing. My heart is at the same time both full and empty of love.
Last of all comes the valley of deprivation and death, which it is almost impossible to describe. The essence of this valley is forgetfulness, dumbness, deafness, and distraction. The 1,000 shadows which surround you disappear in a single ray of the celestial sun. Here, a bird experiences only humiliation and overthrow, but when he emerges from this state, he will understand it as creation, and many secrets will be revealed to him.
When the birds had listened to these descriptions, their heads drooped down and sorrow pierced their hearts. Now they understood how difficult it would be for dust like themselves to bend such a bow. So great was their agitation that numbers of them died then and there. But others, in spite of their distress, decided to set out on the long road. For years they had traveled over mountains and valleys, and a great part of their lives flowed past. In the end, only 30 reached the end of the journey, bewildered and weary. They had reached the door of majesty that cannot be described, beyond reason and beyond knowledge. The lightning of fulfillment flashed, and 100 worlds were consumed in a moment. They saw thousands of suns, each more resplendent than the other, thousands of moons and stars, all equally beautiful. When they were completely at peace, they became aware that the Simurgh was there with them, and all they had done previously was washed away. The Sun of Majesty sent forth his rays, and in the reflection of each other's faces, these 30 birds of the outer world contemplated the great ocean of the inner world. At last, in a state of contemplation, they realized that they were the Simurgh, and that the Simurgh was them. Without speaking, the Simurgh made this known. The Son of my Majesty is a mirror. He who sees himself therein, his soul and his body, all souls and all bodies, sees them completely, has seen how every shadow is lost in the light. And that is all. Thank you, Gary.
Be like the bird that, pausing in her flight, a while on boughs to slight, feels them give way beneath her, and sings, knowing she hath wings. Be like the bird that, pausing in her flight, a while on boughs to sight, feels them give way beneath her, and sings, knowing she hath wings. Be like the bird that, pausing in her flight, a while on boughs to slide, feels the bird that, pausing in her flight, like the bird that, pausing in her flight, prays and sings, knowing she hath wings.
Would you please rise in body and or spirit and join me in speaking our closing affirmation? Behind all our differences and beneath our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together throughout all time, through life and death, and the space between the stars. Now, if you would please join me as much as you feel comfortable in doing the ASL while Leah plays our closing affirmation.
So just before I do the benediction, I just have to share this. I learned this from Matt Davis just before the service, that a flock of flamingos is called a flamboyance. How cool is that? That just makes me happy. In a round world, what goes around comes around. Circles and cycles of stars, seasons of growth and decay, birth and death, and unexpected resurrection. You and I and we are inextricably linked to all that is and was and ever will be. Amen. Our service is ended.